Ladies and gentlemen, SideStrafe here, taking a look at Insurgency. This is the standalone product, and not to be confused with the Half-Life 2 modification. However, I am seeing some potential here, which is why I'm taking a look at it today. This footage is pre-recorded, as I am currently unable to find a server that has a decent number of players within it. It's 9 in the morning for me on the east coast of the United States, so that might be part of the problem, and the game really isn't all that well known. Now, this is also alpha. You can pick up the game for $14.99 on Steam, which will grant you access to said alpha, which is, you know, again, probably another reason there aren't that many people in the title as of yet. Hasn't really had all that much in terms of advertising, but it does seem to have some gameplay that I will be interested in, because it is catering to the hardcore realism gamer. 1 or 2 bullets will kill. There are 3 classes, but really the only differences come into play in regards to run speed, armor, certain recoil mechanics, I think. And even then, the run speed differences aren't that great, nothing crazy, and generally still within the realm of realistic play, which is good. You know, there aren't a whole lot of weapons to choose from. You really don't need 80 weapons in a game because, let's face it, in the real world, bullets are pretty dang lethal, and you don't really want to get hit by any caliber. And, you know, I think that game is, this game is going for that, you know, gameplay style, and that's fine by me. You know, variety is nice from time to time, and sure, I wouldn't complain if they added a few more things down the line, but right now it is completely playable the way it is. There are no unlocks. It is strictly based on supply points in order to add different components to your weapons. So the more your team wins, or the better you do, the more supply points you'll have available to you to add sights, suppressors, change ammunition types and whatnot. But very tactical, slow-paced title. You can see just from some of this pre-recorded gameplay from my time last night that it is something where you have to be patient. Again, 1 or 2 bullets, you're toast. And this is me actually playing the medium class, which has a little bit more armor, slower movement speed and agility. But even with the more armor, it's not going to help me when I take a shot. There are a few instances where you'll see some suppression effects, so don't really confuse those with getting hit all the time either. But we do have different modes of fire: semi-automatic, full auto, bursts, and whatnot, depending on weapon types. And I feel that the ballistics are pretty much squared away. You know, if you aim at something, you're gonna hit it. I haven't really seen if there's a bullet drop yet. I haven't played enough to notice that, and the levels are kind of small to really pay any attention to that type of mechanic. But you know, generally it still feels pretty good. I want to compare the title to something like maybe, you know, original Rainbow Six games, Raven Shield maybe, just from the size of the levels. Nothing huge. This is, of course, using Valve's Source engine, so in terms of graphics and level size and detail, it's not going to be anything jaw-dropping or amazing. You know, it's no Battlefield, it's no Frostbite engine, it's no Arma engine. So if you're looking for eye candy, you're not really going to find it. But if you're looking for gameplay over anything and sheer performance, then you will, because as we know, Source pretty much runs on anything these days. In fact, in this gameplay, I even had VSync enabled and everything maxed out. So with that said, one thing I want to touch on as well is that this game is going to be cross-platform in regards to computers. Windows support, Mac OS, and eventually they're going to support Linux. And all of those platforms will be able to play together, which is fantastic. I mean, there have been games that have done that in the past, In fact, the original Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon was able to do that. I remember playing on PC with a buddy of mine who only had a Mac at the time. And I think that's great because it adds more players to your community. And let's face it, Mac OS users and Linux users sometimes get the shaft in regards to game selection. So that's always a nice feature there. And if you buy the game, you're going to get the ability to play on both systems. So there's a glitch there, noticing, when you get shot, people flying into the air. But so if you buy the game for $14.99 on Steam, you get your Windows copy, you get your Mac OS copy currently, and then I guess later on you'll probably get your Linux copy if you need that as well. But that's great. I think that's a great feature. I think more developers should look at that because it's just going to help them out in the long run. So, again, what are you going to get out of this title? You're going to get some hardcore tactical gameplay. You can generally see from a lot of the players in this match, a lot of people are camping, hanging out, moving at a slower pace. Even though in this mode there's respawn, people are still playing pretty tactical. They're wanting to hold these objectives and just take their time moving around. They understand what this game is about, and at least for now, it's the community seems like they're here to get some of that old school gameplay back. Lots of work needs to be done. Some major glitches, especially when you shoot somebody and they just pop up into the air. I have no idea what that's about. I'm sure they'll work on that. It's generally a bland game in some respects. I find that some of the levels feel really empty and lack detail. There isn't much debris or real life or ambience to some of them. Whereas with, I think, the level we're looking at now, this one actually seems one of the most detailed environments. And it's not that bad. But they are also limited to what the Source engine can provide. I think texture resolution has a limit. The most recent title I think we got out of Source was Counter-Strike Global Offensive, which isn't a hideous game. It's a decent-looking game, but, it does run into texture problems just because I think Source can only go to a certain point. And, that's just something that developers have to deal with. So, gameplay versus eye candy, definitely a thing here. But you also might be thinking, why would I play this over Arma 3? And the only thing I could say there is if you're looking for something smaller scale, 32-player support at the maximum, close quarter battle, tactical, you just want to get in and get out, you want two teams versus each other right away, guaranteed. This is a good game for that. If you want, I would say, a hardcore realistic Call of Duty, slower run speeds, a game that doesn't have unlocks, because a lot of people love unlock mechanics. Some people won't even play a game unless there's unlocks, but some people just want to go back to that old school's system of, hey, you bought the game, here's all your weapons. Let the skill reign supreme. Who's the better player, not who's got the better weapon, and that's something that I'm fine with. Quite frankly, I'm tired of having to grind my way through a first-person shooter to unlock, 50 different weapons and attachments and things like that. It's something that Battlefield 2, I think, actually started, and then after that, it just took off, and since then, every other shooter has added it, and it seems like a lot of gamers actually request it, and they won't touch a game unless they have it, which is kind of sad, actually. I've spoken to a couple of developers that have told me that when they were working on their game, if they didn't add, unlock mechanics, it's a lot of people didn't want to touch the title, which is kind of silly if you ask me, but all right. I mean, I suppose in theory the only unlock ability that is in this title is getting supply points to get more gear on your weapon, but it's nothing that's on a real permanent basis, and you can really choose whatever weapon you want. It's just that once you choose it, as far as the attachments go, like let's say you get a scope. Once you pick that one scope, you've used up your supply points, and you can't return them to get them back for something else, so you'd have to just get new points to be able to switch. So you need to make your choice at the beginning of each round. Otherwise, you're screwed. But of course, you know, with any title, this is going to be something that would be better played with a nice group of friends. Playing in a game filled with random strangers isn't going to help you out in regards to, you know, capturing these objectives. It's very difficult to maintain any level of coordination. There is in-game voice comms. Of course, I have them turned off for the sake of the video because obviously that's going to hurt my commentary. So there's that. And generally, I just don't like listening to a lot of people kind of complain or moan about the game even when it's in an alpha state. So there's that. In regards to the fact that there is respawn, there are modes that don't allow for respawn. I just couldn't find a server that had that set. Generally, let's face it, the majority of the world prefers a game with respawn. I am part of the minority that doesn't like respawn in my tactical shooters. If you're talking about playing Battlefield, that's one thing, or Call of Duty, fine, whatever. But if you're talking about a game where it's supposed to be hardcore, slow-paced, 1 or 2 bullets kill, yeah, I think it's best to not have respawn. Once you kill the person, he's done. He screwed up, or you were just better than him, and or vice versa. And it's time to sit out and wait for the rest of the team to complete the mission. That's how it was in the original Tom Clancy Rainbow Six games, and I love that. I like knowing that you get punished for making a mistake, and I think that's just how it should be in this type of title. You are given the option to create that type of server. If I were to ever have a server for it, I would definitely have that on 24/7. But when I recorded this footage, there was like 2 servers up with people. This one had, near the max of 32. And then there was one other that only had like 16 player support, which was unfortunate. The game really isn't that popular. Again, there isn't that much advertising or publicity for it yet. And it's just too early. Very incomplete. I think when I first saw the game in motion, there was nothing. It was just extremely bland, even more so than it is here. And, it just had a long ways to go. So I never really touched it back then. Because obviously it's been known for quite some time. I just didn't jump on it at the time because there just wasn't enough to look at, and I wasn't gonna focus on something that needed a little bit more work at the time. Because, well, let's face it, I've done that in the past, and it doesn't necessarily help to not have much to talk about because there just isn't anything there. So with this, I feel that it's at a point in its current alpha state that there are things worth mentioning. I do see great potential within this title, at least for something that's just simple, quick to get into, 2 teams, ready to roll. I think that it could be a good game. I want them to really give it some polish. I want more detail in some of the environments. I really hope that they keep tweaking the player animations and physics because they definitely could use some work. Just keep going at it and don't stop, because a lot of developers, they'll get to a point where they say, okay, animations, done. We're done with the animations. We're done with the player models. We're done with the sounds. Now let's just fix bugs and, add new maps, stuff like that. No, keep going. Keep working on those animations till they're amazing, because right now they're not. And I know this is alpha, so let's keep that in mind. But I've seen too many games I've seen too many games just stop at a certain time, and they're like, okay, we're done. We don't need to tweak these anymore. It's like, take World of Warcraft, for example. They built a set amount of animations, and they never decided to add any more. They're like, okay, we're done. We've got all we need. That's it. Unless they added a new race or something, they never felt like it was necessary to add any new animations. I think in a shooter, if it can get to a certain point where it's like, you know what? Let's keep adding to this. Let's keep going. This animation wasn't great. Then let's work on it. Or these sound effects. You know what? They could be better. Let's go down to the gun range and get some legit sounds and add them in, tweak them. Player model, oh, maybe I don't like this skin. Let's change it down the line. You've got your artist there for a reason. Don't just think about maps are the only thing we need to add. Refine everything. Let's say you got 4 or 5 good maps. Refine those maps. Add to them. Details, you know. Add in more debris, a couple of crates here and there, some trash, some whatever, just to make, you know, the world feel alive and ambient. Add some wind and some birds chirping or things like that. Which actually, I think in terms of ambient sound, they've done an okay job. You can hear some things in the background, which is nice. Sound effects, gun sounds aren't hideous, but they could be better, and in time, hopefully, they, you know, will improve a little bit. But honestly, I can live with what they got. The Source engine isn't known for its you know, amazing audio capabilities. You definitely can't compare it to Frostbite or DICE's audio engine. You know, it's just not ever going to be at that level. So I think the best that they could do is just try to get some really legit, nice sound effects with some decent acoustics, I guess, based on, you know, what type of level you're in and whatnot. But, you know, so there's some critique right there in regards to things that I would like to see, because I think that their ballistics are pretty decent. They need to fix a lot of the glitchiness, you know, shooting somebody and then popping up into the air, and some of the things with leaning left and right, which I should mention, you can lean with Q and E keys left and right. You can go prone, you can crouch. You do have those abilities there. I think if they were to maybe copy off of Arma 3 a little bit and steal some of the other ideas in regards to stances and things like that, that would be cool. Because really the only way that this game is going to do well is if they start adding things that are a bit outside the box. I mean, because otherwise it's a shooter that's permanently in hardcore mode. I mean, there are other things, like you don't see your bullet count, you just see your magazine count. The UI is very clean. You don't see much information. You got your kill text and your objectives at the top center. There's not a whole lot, and that's fine. I like a nice, clean, realistic UI. They really need to fix that glitch with the bodies popping up. I keep noticing it throughout the video. It's kind of funny, though, but there will come a point where it's like, okay, enough's enough. So I don't know what that's about. But I think, yeah, I think it's going to come down to that. The price point, you know, $15. It's not a lot. You know, they're not asking for much. It's just that there are other options out there. I mean, you've got Arma 3, you know, which is pretty cheap to get into it. You know, the downside to Arma 3, and the reason that I don't find myself playing it as much, is because when you try to get on a server just to, you know, play an adversarial game, good luck. Performance currently in alpha isn't amazing. You have to get lucky to find a decent server, depending on what time of day it is as well. And generally, you know, the maps are so huge, you really just got to jump into a vehicle to try to find a firefight. And sometimes you just want to get in a fast battle. You just want to say, okay, spawn, go. And that's why games like Battlefield and Call of Duty and any other shooter that's ever existed are generally more popular for instant action. Whereas Arma, it tends to be a game that's all about cooperative mission-based play, and you generally have to join a clan or unit to really get the most out of the title. This, I think, is, you know, it's going to be smaller scale. The fact that it supports 32 players is actually not bad, you know, considering that if you're playing a game like Counter-Strike, you're limited quite a bit there unless you join one of the public or community servers where the player limit is raised instead of the officials. But you know, it depends, because sometimes a smaller scale, like an 8 versus 8 game, is actually kind of fun, or, you know, even, you know, 4 versus 4, depending on map size. I remember playing back in the day in the Rainbow Six titles, having a match with, like, I don't know, 5 versus 5 was actually really fun. It would be very quiet. You'd be running through a corridor, or, you know, just creeping along, and then all of a sudden you'd have a quick firefight that only lasts a few seconds, and then, you know, the fate of your team was decided. So sometimes those smaller scale stealth battles were just phenomenal, and you know, I don't mind that. But of course, with this game, you do have the option, depending on what kind of server operator you are, if you want to change that up, if you want to set the server to 16 players or less, you can do that. So we'll see. I mean, again, I do see some potential here. I do wish them the best with it. I just think it's going to be difficult when you're looking at this really old game engine that really isn't going to, you know, flash any eye candy at certain people. For me, it's a good enough looking game. It meets my the minimum standards that I have for the way a title should look. I just wish that they would add a bit more in regards to maybe refining animations, maybe doing some better texture work, or you know, even working on some of the player model aspects a bit. But they're not bad. They're really not. I've seen some really bad modeling, and this is by no means horrible. The weapons and you know, equipment seem to be pretty nice. It's just really those. I would love to see some nice legit motion capture. I think that would be cool, but considering that it's just a small developer doing this, I don't think that they have those, you know, resources. I don't think anything here is motion capped. It looks kind of hand animated. Maybe I'm wrong though, but you know, just from what it looks like to my eye. So there's that. Again, it's alpha. Anything and everything can change. From some of the levels that I've seen, you know, I guarantee they're probably going to add a lot more. I really haven't looked into it. I haven't read any forums. I haven't spoken to any developers. So I'm just guessing at everything here. This is just my basic kind of fresh first impression opinion. But I'll tell you right off the bat, I do not feel like I wasted my money on this title. I'm glad that I purchased it because I really like supporting smaller developers that aren't, you know, owned by greedy publishers. I think mods, you know, were always the way to go with titles. And even though this isn't a mod, it started out as one. And sometimes the modders are more passionate than certain developers that are just there for a paycheck. You know, because the modders for many years were just doing things for free because they wanted to. They wanted to make an awesome game, and sometimes those modders get lucky and they get to make a real game. And you know, I mean, we've seen that happen in the past, and you know, here it is again. And I think that in terms of bringing back a tactical shooter, this is just another step. So yes, I love Arma 3 and I look forward to its continued improvement. But they're two different games, very, very different. So I'm not going to try to compare them at all, unless, you know, somebody really creates something for Arma 3 that allows you to just have instant action in a close quarter environment. You know, the more tactical shooters we see out there, the better, because then it's going to, you know, slap the industry across the face and say, hey guys, you know, let's wake up here. People want these games, and there are a couple other titles out there that are in the works or that want to be developed that really haven't had much luck, it seems. And this is one that you can actually play. You can buy it and play it right now, whereas some of the other ones I feel are kind of vaporware, where it's like, oh, hey, look at our concept art. Look at our ideas that we have. You know, I mean, there's a Kickstarter that was successful. The name is escaping me right now. It's supposed to be I think it's Takedown. There really isn't a whole lot of content that they've showed us, and that was a successful Kickstarter. I don't know. I mean, maybe Insurgency was a Kickstarter at one point too. I'm not sure. So, you know, correct me if I'm wrong there. But, you know, at least this has something. I'm playing this game, you know, and I can see it, I can hear it, and it's there. It's on Steam. Whereas other things I feel like, oh, here's our website with cool concept art. All right, well, can you at least give us a video of some gameplay or something? I don't know. So this is here. You can get it today. You can get alpha access. You can give your feedback to the developer. Sometimes when you quit the game, it actually pops open a little web browser window with a little survey. Make sure to fill that survey out. Give them your ideas. And don't try to turn this into a game that it's not meant to be. it is a slow-paced tactical shooter, and it should remain that. We don't need another Call of Duty. We don't need another Battlefield. This just needs to be its own title. It needs to be as realistic as possible, and you know, leave it at that. I'd say the biggest issue, though, right now, I will warn you that if you buy the game, you will have a tough time finding a full server. So please keep that in mind. You have been warned. But I think that's going to sum it up for now. I will continue to take a look with some live gameplay and commentary because it does interest me. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to check out the links to Insurgency in the description below. I'll see you in the next one.